All right, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our XFA webinar on developing your AFAs. If we haven't met before, Brandon Hegg. I'm here joined with John Randall, someone I'm sure you all know, and Pete Wilder, someone you're all going to get to know if you don't know him yet. We're going to be here talking specifically about AFA development. Right now, if you're not thinking about developing and investing in your team, this is the time to start. As you continue to build your practice, as you continue to grow, your AFAs, your team, your staff, your employees are going to become your number one client, because through them, you are impacting more and more of your clients. They become your voice, your representation, so you need to focus directly on them, which is exactly why Pete is here. Pete has put a focus and a renewed priority on developing his AFAs. So first and foremost, I want to say, Pete, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Before I go into starting to interview Pete and getting a lot of his insights, which I'll provide a little color commentary on from my side, if you've got questions, John is manning the chat box. Fire questions away. He's going to be able to give them to us. We'll get them answered for you. This is really a great chance for you to make the most of your time, pick Pete's brain, get some answers from one of the experts who's doing this right now, especially on how he's developing his team, because it's a lot of really awesome stuff is going on. So, Pete, my first question to you, because I know you've kind of transitioned into this awesome new focused role on developing your AFAs. Why did that become so important for your team, and why did you make that move?
Well, Brandon, as you may notice, I'm not the youngest spring chicken, as you can tell. And at some point, and just so everybody knows, my eldest son works for me. He's 32. But we have 4 advisors who are under the age 32 or younger, and they're our next gen, and which is a comfort to our clients to know that there is a succession plan, and what's important to have is folks who are competent. Right. To have conversations, 30-year-olds have easy conversations with 30-year-olds. They don't have easy conversations with 50, 60, and 70-year-olds. So it takes some development to get them to not only the client to become comfortable, but also the advisor, the young advisor, the next gen advisor, to be comfortable having those discussions with folks. So that's where my role is starting to transform. 2 years ago, I probably had north of 200 clients. Now I have 70. As you know, it's really my job to run the practice and also develop the talent that we have on board and that we hope to hire over the next few years.
Awesome. And what you're doing is you're taking a tip out of the book of some of the top CEOs of some of the most innovative companies in the country. I was listening to Built to Last, right? The best CEOs start thinking about succession 10, 15 years before it becomes something that's necessary. So you're building that even further of advance, so and your clients know that transition, that legacy is going to continue. It's a great move to be starting on right now. So, in this role, and I'll, as I've seen some of it go and I've been able to witness some of this, what are you doing now to develop your advisors, and how are you executing on it?
Well, the first thing is honestly, we're doing a little bit ad hoc at the beginning of last year. And then we kind of woke up, shall we say, And and we realized we needed more of a systematic approach. So I had long been using the AFA business development program. We ran now 5 advisors through that, and they were using the 40X tool. And so rather than reinvent the wheel, and since they were already steeped in that, we adopted the 40X, and then also got hooked up with the high performance learning group up at Ameriprise. And that whole group is starting to dovetail together. And then where it has led us is to, I've adopted the role of chief learning / development officer too. Okay. So we're in the process of developing a system, not only talking to our advisors around their business goals, but also their professional goals, their personal goals. It's really witty whiffy, a little bit on steroids, not completely on steroids, but where do you want to get to as an advisor, and how can we as an organization help you provide the resources, find the resources, and track you in your development? And that informs us from a client perspective of matching the right client with the right advisor, right? And so it kind of it's a little bit all encompassing, but it's I think it's the wave of the future. I think it's the way our organization goes, and I think the clients are beginning to understand that and respond to that.
There's a couple of things that I've seen in your practice that I think, through you and through the other members of your leadership team that I just wanted to highlight a little bit, because I think it's really important, and it's something I don't see in every practice that we work with. And number one is, as you said, you went and you shifted your role. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that in a second, but sure. What you showed in that is really leadership, right? So I look at leadership as leader being the first one. And when you shifted your role, one of the things you said is, hey guys, I'm new to this, help me out. I'm going to figure this out as I go. That created a culture around where the rest of your team felt comfortable saying, yeah, I don't always know everything. And your AFAs then can, admit, they can come to ask for questions. It created a really safe environment for people to say, I don't have to be perfect. I'm learning, because you set that standard and you were vulnerable enough to share that. I think that's something that I don't see a lot of teams doing, which I thought was great. The other thing that I think is really important about what you've done and what EPG is continuing to do is you guys get in the trenches with your advisors. And that's one of the things where, again, hey, we're not above you. We're not in this ivory tower. If you want us in your meetings, let us help you. We're there to support. Everyone wins together, which again, as your advisors, I've heard from many of your AFAs, wow, I got Andreas in this meeting. I got Pete in this meeting, Chad in this meeting, and I'm having success. So just being open to get us in the meeting. We're not above that. We'll meet with your smallest client. Your win is our win, which I think is absolutely commendable. And it's gone a long way in the development of your team.
I appreciate that feedback. So
thank you. It's absolutely working. So how are you shifting your role in this new Chief Learning and Development Officer to dedicate more time to your advisors?
Well, in fact, before this, we have a fractional chief marketing officer, and we held a training, call it a training, but it's more of a session around opportunities and how we're defining our sphere of opportunities, how we're documenting those in CRM, how the different leads, and we work in diamond teams, so how the diamond team leads can review those opportunities with you, and then find the resources, especially for junior advisors to deliver on those opportunities and bring those into the and wins. What are the systems that we need to set up so that we're seeing where the maybe some problems, some developmental problems, and then translating those over into learning opportunities, either using the Ameriprise learning experience or consultants such as yourself or internal people. Where are the resources and how do we share and how do we continue to develop? So it's really there's business involved here, right? And it's not just like, well, let's go learn some fancy stuff, right? It's, hey, let's hone in and where do we find so that you can provide the best value for your clients, you can develop the business, okay, and you can bring the wins in. And that's the whole impetus of what we're doing.
Absolutely. And I've noticed too in your new role, one of the things, and to put context around it, one of the things that I see the biggest gaps around AFA development and really going from, hey, here's what to do through the learning curve to now, great, you're doing it, is consistency and accountability. How are you approaching, making sure that you stay consistent on their development, consistent on messaging, and holding them accountable to taking action and implementation? What are you guys doing around that?
Well, yeah, so we've expanded our business planning from the previous years, and now we've broken it down into quarterly goals, and we've identified, we want you to, and because we're starting out, so of the 100% quarterly goal, we want a run rate of 20% in the first quarter, up to 45, and keep expanding as we're hopefully building momentum through the year. And so there are specific goals. And again, using Opportunity Tracker, we can see how much opportunity is in their current book. Okay. And let's say, for instance, they need $30,000 in GDC. Okay, they're running at $5,000 and we're 3 weeks during the month and they need to be at 10. Okay, so where can we go into the Opportunity Tracker, find that extra 5, okay, and provide support? Is it financial plans? Is it this? Is it that? Is it an insurance opportunity? Can we hone in on that and bring that win forward, okay, and book that win? So now they've made their goal, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we're trying to operate this thing. There's and then look at, okay, so what is the development again through the different resources that we need to make that consistent. And the thing with AFAs, especially junior AFAs, okay, is they need a lot of at bats. So how do we get them at bats? Because stroking out of part once may just be luck, or it may be skill. It's probably more luck, right? But it's the consistent, you think about hitting, you throw a lot of balls at somebody and they have to keep stroking and finally they find their swing, right? And then I can move on. Now they got the fastball down. Now let's throw them the curveball. Can they hit the curveball, right? And so helping them get a lot of bats, a lot of coaching, it makes them a better advisor and a more valued team member. And financially they win and we win. So
as a first off, yes, 100%, yes. The at bats is so critical. You need to have that repetition. Again, I work with so many AFAs that they sit there and they practice something 2-3 times, and you liken it to the greats out there. Tom Brady, before every game, how many passes? Hundreds of passes. He knows how to throw a ball, but he keeps doing the basics. Michael Jordan, hundreds of free throws. Knows how to shoot a basketball, still had to do it. It's getting that mindset of greatness is in repetition, right? It's, not practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes permanent.
Well, the other thing, and I think the industry and we're brought up to all about revenue, right? And, and everybody hugs their clients and their revenue and doesn't want to let go of it. And, and we've sort of set up a system here where, it's okay for me to give up clients, especially if it's a best fit for somebody else, right? Which is what I've done. And we have a methodology of doing that, okay? But we give clients to the AFAs all the time, Okay. And we have them in our meetings, and then we go into their meetings. So there's a lot of, watch what I'm doing. You got to find your own voice. Okay. But this is the process that I go down, and this is how I set up, selling an insurance policy. This is how I set up positioning financial planning, which we, as you know, we do a lot of, right?
Mhm.
And this is and today we had a big discussion about doing in-service distributions, okay, or setting that up. And that's something that gets set up when people are age 57, not 59 and a half, right? It's you have to be consistent in the messaging, and that's what we're working on.
So on that consistency, and this is something I think that's really, really important as well, that you guys do differently than a lot of others I work with. How often are you meeting with your AFAs to talk with them and help them and coach them? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we have a weekly Diamond Team meeting where we go over some numbers. We have a weekly 40X meeting, and then we have our one-on-one. So there's a lot of time in there. We're building in, and everybody by the end of the month is going to have their model calendar. And one of the things they have to build into the model calendar is a consistent, at least hour a week that they're doing self-development, right? And then we're assigning them stuff in Ameriprise learning experience there that we can track, that they have to show up and they have to get through some stuff. Right. And, because, using the 40X thing, there's the whirlwind. Right. And there's constantly crap running around you. Right. That you have to step away and you have to spend some me time, to sharpen your skill set. So we're building that in. That's a change for this year, that we're building that into everybody's model calendar.
See, I think what you hit on is something what's really important, and another good reminder is, so if I just summarize here, you've got 1 hour a week in your Diamond Team meeting. Then you've got 1 hour a week on goal progress and goal execution. Then they've got 1 hour a week where they need to be doing their own self-development. Then they've got one-on-ones on top of that. Plus then, they've got maybe working with me or working with John on top of that. So you pile that up in a 40-hour week, they're spending, 5 to 10 hours on development, on practice, and on getting better. Have you found, as you've put that much time and that much energy into developing them and putting that on their calendar, told them to do it, have you found that anyone has had trouble keeping up and getting things done?
No, not, specifically, no. They become more efficient actually because of they're not flubbing around with language and screwing it up, and they're not, they're learning how to manage meetings, okay, which is super important. How to get to the yes or the no. The maybe sucks, right? And so, it's either, and again, we do 600 financial plans. So we know a lot about our clients. We meet with them consistently 4 times a year. And so we're always there. So, they're getting, and we've seen actually quite an uptick in our first 3 weeks here compared to over last year, right? So I think it's certainly working, and if nothing else, okay, they feel part of the team. They feel, if I could use the word, loved, okay, and I think that's motivating them to trying to do better, right, and trying to execute more. So I think in many ways it's paying a lot of dividends.
And you hit on exactly where I was hoping you would say and where you would go. Is the fact is, when we talk about and work with, I know it because I've led AFAs, I've led young teams. When you talk about, hey, I need you to put 5 to 10 hours of self-development and practice in a week, the initial response is, I can never do it. I've got too much going on. I don't have the time. How am I going to get everything done? Until you force it in there with a model week, and all of a sudden it gets figured out. Because when you have to operate a way, you find a way, and you guys are proving it. And I think that's a huge win for you all.
Well, 8 years ago, I'll tell you, and he's still with us. I don't know why, Garrett. Okay. But Garrett came on from Clemson. He was just out of school. We hired him and we're like, hey, go get clients. And he's like, I don't know how to get freaking clients. I don't even know how to run it, and the poor guy he's a great kid. But the poor guy was just, it's amazing that he's still sane, right? Because we screwed him over 6 ways but Sundays, right? But he did write 400 financial plans over the time. And now he's like, he's one of our mainstays. He's on our executive committee. He's certainly a primary in our next gen. And, I trust him with any client that I have because he's that good. Okay. But we've learned from him. He was our guinea pig. Right. And, although he didn't give whole lot of feedback, like you guys are crazier than hell, which he should have, we've tried stuff on him and it's, we've, at least we're learning. Okay. And we're adjusting and we're changing. And this is where we've gotten to from those sometimes hard lessons.
There was, honestly, there's something else that you mentioned in there that reminded me of a book that I was reading and then re-listening to as kind of prep for our session. And you may have heard of it, but it's called The Culture Code. And one of the things that they talk in there is the number one thing you have to do is create an environment where people feel safe. As you said, they feel loved in that environment. They familiar, it's a place they can fail, they can come to. But the other thing you talked about is this business is geared on revenue. And that's the way it's always been. What's the revenue? What's the revenue? And I see so many firms that I work with that if I went to them and I said, all right, Pete got the biggest bonus this quarter. Why? They'll say, well, because he made the most sales. Whereas in some firms, and I think your firm is one of those where people understand if Pete got the biggest bonus, it's because he helped the most clients get closer to their goals. And that's a mantra that has to be said over and over because that's the purpose that EPG, your practice, exists to do, is helping clients. And that's how you guys have fostered. How have you motivated and done that?
Well, one of our speaking of mantras, one of our big mantras is I'm looking for teammates, not roommates. And I find a lot of financial planning practices are in a silo model, right? And what this guy over here is doing and what that girl over there is doing completely different, or they don't share. We believe that any of the advisors can call any of the other advisors and say, I need help. I need help in developing this financial plan. I need help doing this. Everybody's got a unique skill set, and I'm admittedly terrible at creating investment portfolios. Not my thing. Okay, so I need help doing that. Right? I'm not the best networker. Okay, my son Andres is. Okay, but I'm a great. I love the putting together financial planning and the puzzle. So how do you mutually support each other so everybody wins? And you have to be open to that. You have to be a good teammate, right? Tom Brady, who you mentioned, guess what? He can throw the best football. There ain't somebody in the end zone catching the goddamn football. Okay, they ain't winning.
Exactly right. You're right on.
Right?
It takes a whole team. I think what we're seeing is something that you mentioned, is this transition away from the solo siloed advisor and into this more of a team of experts. I mean, the analogy I keep thinking about is you think of a doctor's office, right? So my advisor down the road here is like a family practitioner. I could go to him for a checkup. I can get my physical. If I've got the sniffles, I can go, he can let me know what's happening. But if I get sick, really sick, and I need help, I'm not going there. I'm going to the hospital down the road because that's where they have the experts. And as financial practices, we built and been around this idea of the family practitioner. I'm a jack of all trades, but really great at none. Whereas what you've been doing with your AFAs and your whole team is you're creating that hospital. When someone has a complicated problem, they can come to you because you've got all the experts and no one has to hold that one thing. So what do you use, again, for motivating and rewarding and keeping your AFAs motivated to continuously get better what are some of the things that you do to recognize and reward and motivate them?
Well, part of it's the comp system where, we've identified in bonuses the things that we're honing in on this particular year, or at least the next 6 months. We're looking at, driving financial plans, either from new clients or existing clients who aren't doing financial planning with us, because we feel that's our wheelhouse and we feel that sets up the business the best and provides the client the best experience. Okay. And so all our systems are built around formal financial planning. And to that degree, okay, how can our AFAs can use the tool so they can present off we use Navaplan. It doesn't matter, but how can we leverage Navaplan to inform our clients so that they can make the best decisions vis-a-vis their goals? Okay. That's our whole systems up there. So that. We realized last year that we were probably shying away from insurance. So we developed an insurance specialist on our team who takes a lot of the legwork off of that, the tracking of financial plan of insurance. And so now we're rewarding on insurance contracts that are closed. Okay. So, and then finally, is no surprise, closing on AUM, right? And net flows, which again sets up the business. Okay. So, we have a bonus structure that rewards, assets coming in the door, right? And all of that needs to be captured in Opportunity Manager, and that way we can help them get paid through bonuses. We want to pay them. I want to pay them. Right? I want them to win.
Yes.
Right?
And what you've done, it follows exactly what we're seeing in surveys and studies. Look, Raymond James did a study recently that said if you can take a young advisor and give them 3 key tactics to focus on, or 4, I think 4 is kind of the max, but net flows, financial plans, insurance, their revenue goes up 2.5 times because they know what to focus on. One of our leaders in Ameriprise, Marcus Ranger, who's out west, if you know him, he says results are directly aligned to clarity of instruction. Go after these 3 things, you'll win big, and you're going to see it. So I know we're coming up on time. I want to open it up. If anybody had questions, Pete, thank you so much. Dropping knowledge bombs as always. We appreciate your time, giving the insight and some of your best practices. Open it up to the group. John, just put it in there. Type your questions. You got Pete here live, running a hugely successful practice. Fire away of anything you've got.
I'll just slide in that insight that I typed there for anyone that didn't see it. Do more than you think you should. Most practices do not do enough in this area. And you can see the progression of Pete, not offering enough way back in the beginning when he just had Garrett to now, where it's a focus. You heard his role shift. It's all in on this.
I've got a couple messages from you guys. Awesome. I do not have a car there.
Hey, good question from Dave Wilson there. Ideal client count per advisor. Do you have a target on that Pete?
No, we don't. We don't have a client count. We don't. It's more based on how many financial planning relationships folks have, and we look at what their capacity to handle those are. So we don't have a specific client objective. We do use something called interactive client survey to generate referrals, and we seem to come up with, year over year, over 100 referrals through the practice every year. So client act isn't one of our issues, so we're not really focusing on that.
I think for clients serviced, segmentation has a something to do with it, right? If somebody's servicing a lot of smaller clients, there could be a lot. If somebody's working with, higher end clients like Garrett certainly is, there's a lot more planning going on, a lot more complexity, can't handle as many. So, so Dave's asking is a common one, just, comp models. He was looking to connect with you privately, Pete, on
Yeah, sure, Dave. I'd love to.
on doing that. It's a popular one. We have a lot too at our consulting firm. We have a lot of examples. Brandon's amassed a lot of those. Just he sees a lot of them. He knows a lot of the best practices and what not to do. Unfortunately, we've seen, and it's great, not only working with the whole practice, the franchise owners, but also the AFAs too, because we hear when it's not motivating to them. We hear when it doesn't work, and you look at the plan and, oh, well, there's why. There wasn't clarity. They didn't know how they could win, or it wasn't motivating to them. So it's a big one. It's a big deal. Incentives do matter.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's, and as we all recognize, it is money, but it's not all about money, right? You got to paint a picture for a future. You got to paint a picture for, how they grow. We have points in our system where they get additional resources to support them, which will help them even lift higher, quicker, right? You don't support somebody who's running, 200,000 in revenue the same way you support somebody who's running 500,000 in revenue, right? It's just not the same. And so there are certain breakpoints where you get certain pieces of people's time. We are a fairly heavy support practice. So we have a lot of different, like we have a financial planning manager who does, and a specialist along with that, because we do so much financial planning, which admittedly is sort of a data pain in the ass. Okay. But it does set up our business, right? And so what we want to do is certainly help people who are doing higher revenue, higher complexity plans to do more plans, right? And take some of that burden off.
Yeah, we got one from Lee here. So Lee Begay says, Pete, how much of your time are you leading advisors versus servicing clients?
I'm down to about 70 clients now, down from, like I said, a couple hundred. So I have essentially 2 days of my practice that I'm meeting with clients, and the other 3 days I'm developing the practice, meeting with advisors, diamond team leads, and stuff like that. So about 40% of my time is with clients.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions that we have from the group? All right. Well, then we'll wind down. Pete, thanks again, my friend. I will talk to you later this week.
Sounds good.
Great insights. Much appreciated. Again, if you ever need anything, reach out. If you guys want to talk more about this, let us know. But until next time, you guys stay high power, and we'll see y'all soon.
Take care. Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone.